Be quiet. Hi, this is Peter Godinez, your ambassador with KDY TV with another segment of Good Morning Port Wine Evening. And as usual, we have somebody of significance that always sits to this side. On this side, it's usually different. But I have Jackie Griffin, okay? And I just want to make sure because that has so many different pronunciations. Jackie is spelled regular, no fancy ways about it. And she is, I want to say, the director of library services for the county.
Right.
And I want to just begin by saying thanks so much for taking time out of I'm sure, a very busy day. And I want to talk library.
Good.
And
that's my favorite thing.
I hear you have a lot to say about it. And so I want to begin by just saying, first of all, what's your background? Tell us a little about yourself. Where you were raised, and were you part of this county? Give us a little history there.
I grew up on the East Coast. I was born in New York State. I moved to Pennsylvania as a small child and went to school there, went to Penn State for a while, and then transferred to the University of Wisconsin in Milwaukee. And got my undergraduate degree in international relations and Soviet studies.
Wow. And
thought I would go on and get a PhD, and then decided I would sidetrack into librarianship for a little while and then
librarianship.
Go back. Yes.
That's the word I haven't heard. So you're making words here.
Got my master's degree in library science, and then the Soviet Union collapsed.
Oh my gosh. So
and I found out that I really, really loved, particularly public libraries. I really loved that that real epitome of Americanism that is in public libraries in the United States, that anyone can come in off the street and learn and grow and change their lives in a public library, and that's an amazing thing. So I've been doing it for almost 30 years.
What was the first library you had? Have you been asked that question before? The very first. There's always a first.
My first library experience?
Yes, that you want to share with our audience here.
I lived in a little town in Pennsylvania called Huntingdon. I was on my way down to the river where the kids went to swim. I was pretty young, and it was a little tiny town in the early 1960s where you could walk anywhere you wanted safely. And I walked by this building, and there were, on a table inside the window, there were all the Wizard of Oz books.
Oh my goodness.
And so I snuck in and I sat at the table and I started reading, and I would sneak in every chance I got, and I read my way down the row of Wizard of Oz books until a woman came up to me and said, you can take those books home with you if you want.
So you were sneaking in when you didn't have to sneak in, because I was thinking, why were you having to sneak in?
Because I didn't see any other kids there, and it looked like a place for just grown-ups, and they had one of those slant tables that had all the Wizard of Oz books on it. And I think that was kind of good, because it gave me this sense of, that I was getting away with something that I shouldn't get away with.
Oh my gosh,
and,
what we've created
sneaking
here.
Around. And so, I love it when I see a kid sneak into the library and slip in and think they're getting away with something by
So you don't go up
book.
to them and say, busted, that type of thing, That doesn't happen.
I don't.
So how did the continent of the United States tilt this way and you slid to California? We're so fortunate to have you, by the way.
I used to tease people that I was just moving across the country, because I went from Pennsylvania to Wisconsin, and then I moved to Washington State, worked just outside in King County, and then down to Oregon, and then down to Berkeley, and then down here.
Wow, so you kind of slid
I just went all the way to the side and then all the way down.
And then it turned this way, and then you came south then.
No, but I've been here for 8 years, and that's the longest I've stayed in any job, and I think it's where I'm going to finish out my career. I'm really having a good time here. I work with an exceptional group of people.
Usually after 7, now that's when the significant things are happening. So I'm meeting you at just in a divine time, I think.
Oh yeah, this has been an amazing time. We're through the worst recession in my lifetime, and we survived, and we didn't just survive, we did really well through it, and we've grown, and what's happening in the library. And we also came through that period of time where people were saying, you have the internet, you don't need public libraries anymore, and that was a hard time for all of us for a while, trying to refocus and figure out what our purpose was. And I think we've come through that now, and now we see what the next step is, and it's really exciting.
I think so.
And I'm fortunate to work with a lot of people who are really on fire to do great things. So.
And during I call it our calisthenics prior to the interview, we had said the library has been such a significant contributor to us as a society, and I believe one of our strengths. And obviously things are changed. So what would you say the current state of the library is, and then what the future looks like in keeping that significance here in this country?
Sure. I think that based on a lot of things, I think the way that we deliver information is changing really fast, and a lot of it is electronic now, and we've probably made that move into those things as well as any library in the United States. If you go to the library website right now, which is vencolibrary.org, you will find a 47 to 50 databases of all sorts of information, and you can get those from your home, from your office, from your car, not while you're driving preferably, but just medical information, legal information. The one that I like to tell parents about is that every one of us who's ever had a 4th, 5th grader in California knows that experience of your child coming to you in tears and saying, my mission project is due, and it's Sunday night, and the library is closed, and you don't know what to do. And now we tell people, every single mission in California, we have a mission book online that you can access from your home with all the work plans for making the little model that you're going to need to be making there at 10 o'clock really on Sunday night.
Can I say that's cool?
That is cool. It is cool. It is amazing. And so if you're a person who repairs your own cars at home, we have all the Chilton manuals online. You can take your iPad or your iPhone or your laptop out and work on your car and use Chilton manual right there. Those are things that you could only use in the library. You'd come in, you'd Xerox pages out, you'd try to make it work. This is quite different now. And that's not only just available to individuals, but you can also use that if you're an automotive mechanic who has a shop. You can use that instead of purchasing it. We have legal rights for you to be able to use those. And this is one of the things that I want to highlight, is that business people in this community are paying property taxes and providing a lot of funding for this library. And we, in turn, have purchased a lot of databases and materials that will help you with your business plan, help you looking for funding. And if you come in and work with Bernadette McDowell here, our library branch manager here, she can help you specialize a plan, narrow it down, really narrow focus to what it is that you're thinking about doing, who your competitors might be in the area, where your market is, the demographics of the community. We purchase a lot of those kind of materials, and they're free to you as long as you have a library card.
So I could almost say that Bernadette, who I had a chance to meet, she could be considered like a business consultant.
That's exactly right.
Oh my goodness.
And a free business consultant.
I want to say economicus, so free is just like one of those terms that's not cool, but that is amazing. I did not think about that.
It is, and that's true for an awful lot of things. One of the things that I'm really concerned about right now, and that's playing a huge part in public libraries, is that over the last couple decades, schools have not been able to afford to pay for school librarians or for a lot of the materials in the schools. So we have become, in many ways, de facto school libraries. And we haven't received any increase in funding for that, but we've really picked that up. And now with Common Core starting, we're paying for a lot of books to support the schools in Common Core. But when schools have school libraries, those kids are required to go there during the school day. We can't go out in the street and force people to bring their kids into the library. So a lot of kids are missing that first really good experience with a library. And this is one of the things that I'm hoping things like your program will do, is remind families that it's really important to get your kids in, not just for schoolwork. Kids that read recreationally, they do much better all through school years. I mean, there's lots of studies about that. So while you want them to bring them in for their schoolwork, you also want them to bring them in just to pick up a book to read. And one of the things that we're really concerned about is something called the summer slide. Kids that don't read over the summer lose as much as 3 months of the reading skills they gain during the school year. So in the first 6 years of school, a kid that doesn't read over the summer can be as much as 18 months behind kids that read 5 books over the summer.
I believe that.
So, and those kids never regain those reading skills. They just don't get them back, and so they're always behind. And there's a real simple fix for that, and we bribe kids into doing it. You know, we have a summer reading program. and kids get prizes for every couple books that they read, and then at the end of the summer there's a big grand prize, and there's all sorts of programs. And to kids and their parents it's a feel-good thing, but for us in the schools we know that it's really essential. And kids that read over the summer do better in math when they go back to school.
No, I agree with that.
So
It's amazing. I think we have some mini U's sneaking into
see?
the library here.
they're the
and,
next generation. There they
No,
are.
I love it. And, just to build on what you're saying, again, I have a brilliant father. And one of the things I knew about him when he was growing up is he would take a little red wagon and fill it up with books and take them home and read them with his little red wagon, and then come back and reload it. And he just turned 80, and he still reads a book practically every other day.
Oh, that's
and the man is brilliant. So sorry to kind of just
No,
hone in on my
no,
own personal
but
experiences,
that's-
but that was proof what you just said.
Right, and I think that's really essential that people know that. These kids, their parents are doing one of the greatest things that they can do for them. From my perspective, there's two really great things parents can do for kids before they start school. The first is to bring them to a library, and the second is to eat dinner with them most nights of the week.
Yeah.
Kids who eat dinner with their parents learn 8 million more words, hear
That's
8
amazing.
million more words before they go to school than kids that don't. So these parents are doing something so simple, so small, and then you pair that with eating dinner and telling family stories, and you have prepared a kid for success. And
Back
that's
to
enormous.
basics.
Yeah, it really is basic. And when we talk about, the internet replaces informational needs, well, no, it doesn't, because all sorts of information is out there on the internet, right and wrong, and a librarian can help you sort that. But if you're just even talking about putting a book into a kid's hands, and let me point out, it doesn't have to be a physical book anymore. We have like 20 or 30,000 ebooks, and our collection is growing. You can download to your Kindle or your iPad from your home. Don't have to come in as long as you have a library card. And we have kids' books on electronic formats. So
One of the things that just popped in my head, and I think I do pretty good, just pops in my head. I'm listening to what you're saying, but with the advent of print on demand, I noticed, because I was a publisher at one time, that we would usually, out of 10 authors, we maybe only pick 2. But that's changing now, because just pretty much everybody can write the book and the barrier's gone. Do you see these authors integrating into the public library system, you think?
you do some. I'm a heavy user of Amazon. I think that they're a real amazing resource, and they will e-publish anybody who wants to be published. And what you can see sometimes is somebody develop a real following. I think it's a combination of hopefully good writing and then really smart social media self-marketing.
And that could be all integrated
And that,
into the
so a
library
person
system.
who's got both the skills at writing and storytelling and has some smarts about how to get other people to look at what they've got, I think it takes out that middleman concept. For us, all of this is really interesting because for myself, it's much cheaper if I buy an ebook than if I buy a physical book. Publishers have made it incredibly expensive for libraries to buy ebooks. Random House is like $87 a book.
Amazing.
But they have a point, which is they don't wear out. They
true.
don't wear out. Normally, a regular book in a library, here's a fact that very few people know. A normal book in a library wears out after 96 checkouts. So the question is, how do you manage that and we're all just, this is the Wild West of electronic publishing.
I agree with you in terms of, and I don't know if you're online with what I'm saying, but I think the difference between typing information and writing, it's a different process for some reason. And the same thing, to be able to read a book that's physically you can hold is a different process. And some scientists will probably disagree with me than reading it electronically on a screen. So
No, I think scientists are agreeing with you a lot. They've been doing studies, and some studies say that you absorb information better when you read it in a physical book. But I find myself reading more electronic books. Now, I know other librarians who won't read anything, but what I think is interesting is I read all of my recreational kind of reading as an ebook but I have about 800 books on the Civil War at home, and I won't buy a book on the Civil War as an electronic book.
Well, it goes back to...
Yeah, you know, so everybody has their, and I know some people who will only buy books that they don't care about electronically.
You know, just to build on your point, it was something you were saying that if somebody is actually reading both hard copy and electronic, statistics would probably show that that person probably is taking in more content who's just possibly reading physical books, because there's a lot of people electronically who are just looking up for references, read about 4 paragraphs, and now they got what they want. Would you agree, disagree with that statement?
No, I actually would disagree with that one. I'll tell you why. Because electronic formats aren't good enough to just casually skip through yet. You can't do a good job of searching. You can't, if for that kind of thing, which is one of the reasons my Civil War books are in print, beyond the fact that I just like to sit and look at them sometimes.
That's a good thing.
I can use the index better. I can look at the maps better. I can flip through and find a specific thing. It's much harder to do that. I think that that's something that's going to get... I am astonished at how the technology has improved over the years.
It changes every 20 seconds, yeah.
You know, and I have 2 sons who are huge users of technology. They're 18 and 26, and they won't use an electronic book.
Really?
No, yes, and they think that I'm a traitor to all things book. They will only read physical books. Be nice to
your mom, okay.
They will only read physical books. They say they feel good, it's the way a book should be read, and they don't want any part of an electronic book. Their heads are buried in their laptops 20 hours a day, but they won't read a book that way. And I love that about them. I think they're wrong, but I do
love you agree to disagree, in other words, you know.
Yeah.
I admire their courage to disagree with mom. That takes a lot of courage,
I think that anything that gets more books into the hands of more people in the long run is a better thing. You know, when the paperback was invented, it suddenly made reading... if you look through the history of books, they used to be chained. You know, in Europe, the libraries had them chained down so nobody could take them away. And they were only available to people who were pretty wealthy and who knew how to read. And knowing how to read was something of the upper class. It wasn't required of other people, and that kept people away from information and knowledge. And then as you watch our history, books became, you know, the Gutenberg printing press suddenly made books available to the masses.
Yes.
And in the 40s and the 50s, when we started getting paperbacks out, suddenly people had real access, real unfettered access. And to me, electronic books are just another piece of that. It just spreads the information out. We see so many immigrants and so many really poor people who tell us or tell their biographers or whoever that the difference in their life was a public library. Being able to go in and sit down and read in any way that happens. And now I don't want them to have to come in. I want it to be available anywhere and everywhere. I want us to be more concerned about the knowledge and the reading than I am about where it takes place.
It's amazing.
And that's what we get to do now.
Well, that was a huge clarification for me. And just my final question, it pops in my head. Dewey Decimal System, has that at all changed through the years?
Well, the decimal system hasn't changed, but what's happening is librarians are changing. I have a deputy director of the library system who is a young and driven librarian, and she wants us to move to a classification system that's much more like bookstores. Much easier for people to find, much more relaxed. I'm a little concerned about it because I'm a little bit older. So we're having a little conversation about it, but I think a lot of what she says makes sense, that this is what people are used to and this is what they're comfortable with, and the idea is not to put something on that baffles them and means that librarians have to find the books, but they can find it by themselves. So it's changing.
Yeah, maybe there'll be a GPS for books, no matter where it is. But
we have RFID tags. That would not be that hard to do.
I am so educated now. In fact, you are so significant. Keep on doing what you're doing. You know, what's beautiful about doing this is I get a chance to meet people who I know are going to be a significant reason why this nation will continue to be a contributor to the world. So, Jackie, it was a pleasure meeting you.
It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
I'm a little smarter. I wasn't like my dad taking books. I'd take one and complain about it on the way home. But Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me here.
It's a pleasure. Again, this is Peter Godinez with KADY TV, your ambassador, with another segment of Good Morning Port Hueneme. Until next time.